So I'm making this video because there were some individuals that said that even after I put the second link up, that they still couldn't access the virtual site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the second part. So not the first experiment here, but the second experiment. And I'm going to make sure that you're able to see the information and the data that you need to be able to fill this out. So for this first question, it says, what's the difference in people who suffer from lactose intolerance when compared with normal individuals? That's something that you can just find on your own. So I'll be kind of starting through number 15. So what we're going to do is we're going to read the procedure, and I'm going to click the video, and I'm going to kind of narrate the video for you. We're going to conduct the experiment based on the directions that are specified and adjust the pHs. We'll be able to graph or find our data for that part and for the next part here. And then the rest of the questions, once you have this data filled out, you should be able to do on your own. So I'll go back up and we're going to do this part first. We'll read through the objectives and the procedures, and then we'll watch the video that you have to summarize. So here we are. And we're going over this part that says the objectives and the procedures. So in this investigation, you'll determine the effects of substrate concentration and pH on the initial rate of an enzyme catalyzed reaction. We're going to determine the effects of substrate concentration on the initial rate of an enzyme catalyzed reaction and determine the effect of pH on the initial rate of the enzyme catalyzed reaction. So the first thing we're going to do is click on this and look at the short animation about enzymes in action.
Enzymes enable
So it says that
molecules called
enzymes
substrates
enable molecules
to undergo a
called
chemical
substrates
change to
to
form new
undergo a chemical
substances
change
called
to form
products.
new substances called
Each
products.
enzyme acts on a specific
Each
molecule
enzyme
or set of
acts on a
molecules called
specific
substrates.
molecule called substrates.
Each substrate
Each
fits into an
substrate
area of
fits
the
into an
enzyme
area
called
of
the active site.
called an active site.
This fitting together
This
is
fitting
often
together
compared to
is
a lock
often
and key
compared to a
mechanism.
lock and key
However,
mechanism.
the enzyme
However,
changes shape a
the
little to
enzyme
fit with the
changes
substrate.
shape a little to fit with the
In the enzyme-substrate complex,
In
the enzyme holds the substrate or
complex,
substrates
enzyme
in a
holds
position
the
where a
substrate
reaction
in
can
a
occur
position
easily.
where the reaction can occur easily.
After reaction,
After the
the
reaction,
enzyme releases the
enzyme
products
releases
and
the
can go on
product
to carry out
and
the
can
same
go on to
reaction
carry out
again
the
and
same
again.
reaction again and again. So that was just a narration from this video, so that you are able to use that information to fill out number 15. Then it says to conduct the experiment based on the directions specified under the procedures and adjust the pH in each test tube to the following. So we're going to go back and we're going to do that. So it says conduct the experiment. Adjust the pH levels of the test tube by clicking the up and down arrows right here. Each of the test tubes that already contain an enzyme solution. So each of these already contain an enzyme solution. Click and drag a piece of the weighing paper with the powdered substrate to the test tube. And then we're going to assume that the enzyme concentration in each test tube is the same. After we've done that, we're going to click on the computer monitor to see the digital counter table that displays the number of product molecules forming during the first minute in each of the 5 test tubes. And this is the initial reaction rate of the enzyme catalyzed reaction. Right, click on the table button to record the data in the table. Okay, then we're going to reset and repeat the experiment using different amounts of substrate at a constant pH value for each of the test tubes. Or use one substrate at 5 different pH levels. Okay, so let's go back to our data table to see what we're going to need to do. So it says to conduct the experiment based on the directions, and we're going to do 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11 for the pHs. And at first, we're going to add 0.5 grams of substrate in each of the test tubes. So first 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. And then we're going to grab this 0.5 and add it to each of the test tubes. Right, so that was the first step. We added 0.5 grams to each of the test tubes. These questions, 18, 19, 20, are things that you can answer on your own. Then it says record the data in the data table below and repeat the experiment using these amounts of the substrate lactose. So if you'll notice on our computer, we have the amounts from the first experiment with 0.5 grams. So on your data table, 0.5 grams, this is the information to fill out this first row right here. All right. So what I'm going to do is we can type that stuff either in this table right here, if you're doing it online, but on your sheet, like I said, you're just going to want to put it on this first row. So I'm going to stop clicking around like a mad person so that you can write these down. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat, keeping each test tube at the same pH that it was at, but we're going to go through the other whey papers. And so I'm going to do that. Just click the reset button. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Now we're going to move up to 1 gram. Click on the computer. So take a second to write these down. All right. And then it's just kind of plug and chug repeat. So I'm going to just kind of, if it's okay with you, speed up how fast I'm doing this, knowing that you can always pause this. And I'm going to move over to 2 grams. And this will be for the third row in your data table under 2 grams. Going back, clicking on the computer. All right. Then resetting to do 4 grams. There. There. Clicking on the computer for 4 grams. This will be in your data table, the one for 4 grams, the row. All right. And then just resetting the last time and doing 8 grams in each. And then there's the information for 8 grams. So if we go back, now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of these rows filled in. The next it'll say graph the data on graph paper. You can also make a graph. I left some extra room down here at the bottom if you didn't want to include a separate graph and take a picture of that. The rest of this though are all based on your data. So there's nothing else you need on that animation to do. So we went through, and this was the main part, is recording this data. All right. The only other thing that you needed was the video I summarized. So I kind of narrated it for you. And then 14, you can just look up. So I think that should be all you need. Please, if you miss some of the numbers, you can go back and pause this. But otherwise, you should be able to complete the rest of experiment 2.